What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with some Raid Shadow Legends, and we are running Fireknight 20. There is a special tournament going on right now to do Fireknight with the Telerian Alliance. So we've got Banner Lords, Sacred Order, Barbarians, and High Elves. So pretty easy to come up with a team that'll work for this. It may not be a super fast team, but you should be able to come up with something that can kind of help you get through this content to do this tournament if you just want to go for some easy rewards. It seems like most people usually ignore these, so when we get factions like this, it can be kind of nice. This first team here we're running, I've got Lysandra, Scylla the Drakes, Stag Knight, Lightsworn, and then Armiger, just to kind of give you guys an idea of a team that works together. We've got a lot of turn meter here, turn meter control. We've got some stun with Syl for the waves. Got Stag Knight with some speed down. Lightsworn has that as well, and then we've got Armiger for the turn meter and some big hits on the boss when we do get there. But we're going to run through a couple different teams that I'm using here on my main account just to kind of show some ideas and talk about it a little bit. One thing I do want to mention as well, like where we have Syl the Drakes here, you'll see Apothecary later on. You can run negative affinity champions, especially if they're more support champions. I see a lot of people get hung up on negative affinity stuff all the time and say, oh, I only have magic champions, I can't run them in this forest dungeon. You can. You'll see Syl performs pretty well here. She hits her stun quite a bit on the waves. She still hits the turn meter down on the boss. She still does damage. All her other abilities work just fine, her passives and whatnot. You'll see the same thing with Apothecary. We really just have him in there because he is healing, and he's also getting multi-hits on the Fireknight shield. We don't care about his damage, really. So in that case, it doesn't matter that he's negative affinity to the waves or to the boss himself. It'd be nice, obviously, to be strong affinity in all positions to get that damage on the boss and make it run a little bit quicker, but I just wanted to kind of mention that ahead of time because I think a lot of people always hear the advice of you can't use negative affinity champions, especially like in these earlier dungeons, like level 20 and below. You can get away with it as long as your gear is pretty good. Now this other team here, we kind of just swapped out Apothecary for Lysandra because I wanted to try to run something that didn't have as many legendary champions in it. We're just using Scylla the Drakes here, who's your free-to-play login 6-month champion. So Apothecary here is going to be doing some speed boosting for us and basically just some heals in case we need it. And that's pretty much it. He's going to be also there to do multi-hitter on the Fireknight shield once we do get to the boss. And that's really what you kind of want to have on a team if you're putting it together here. You want to have a couple champions that have some multi-hitter abilities. We have Lightsworn here. We have Apothecary. We have Stag Knight even has the 2-hit on his A1. So you want to be able to get that shield down. It's only 10 hits on level 20. So you want to be able to get that shield down relatively quickly so that you can get some turn meter down on the Fireknight before he can get that shield back up and take some turns. Now, some of these runs I think he does manage to get a turn because something falls off. We don't get the turn meter to hit, but our champs are built well enough to where we can take at least 1 or 2 hits from him without having to worry about it. We'll get back in sync and get everything back down. You'll see the gear and everything toward the end of the video. We'll go through each of the champions and show off their gear and their masteries. There's really no special builds here. It's pretty much gear that, by the time you've been playing the game for 2+ years, you should have a decent amount of some good gear. I know the Gear Ascension stuff just came out and people are losing their minds over it, but I'm really not going to get into that really in this video because this is a fun video and I wanted to just finally make some content on something I enjoy in the game, which is doing these specific faction and champion challenges with these tournaments, because it's kind of fun to come in here and use some of these champions that you don't usually use. Like Apothecary is normally in my vault. I don't usually use him that much. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But we can maybe talk about Gear Ascension in another video, although I'd probably trigger too many people with my opinion on it because there's been a lot of complaining about it and I just honestly don't get it. But like I said, I don't want to get into that here. Maybe we'll do a different video once some of the stuff has died down now. Here we go with another team. This was kind of the for fun team. We have a common champion all the way on the left here. You may not be able to see him too well because I am running this at a little bit faster speed just to get through it because this run did take the longest out of all of them. But we're running Yeoman, who is a common champion, I believe in the Sacred Order. And he's only in here for 3-hitter on his A1. It does do some turn meter reduction, but it's mainly just here to get the shield down. Now, as I will go into in depth later in this video, I do talk about how I don't suggest wasting your resources building a champion like him. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But it's just that, unless you're like a well-advanced account that has the resources to blow, don't waste any of your stuff building common champions in this game, especially early game, mid game. It's just not worth wasting the chickens. It's not worth wasting the silver or the gear or anything. You want to be building good champions that are going to help you actually progress through the game. But you'll see same concepts here. We've got Yeoman with a 3-hitter on the shield, kind of like Lightsworn had. We've got Stag Knight doing the speed down thing, Apothecary with those multi-hits for the shield, and Arminger's really the carry here. He's going to hit that turret meter down on his A1 and get those big hits with his A2, especially since he is strong affinity here. Pretty solid champion overall. We use him mostly in our Dragon 25 farm team, which is why you'll see all the poisons going up here, which unfortunately became a bit of an issue because with so many poisons going out, we're not landing the decreased defense from Stag Knights. That's kind of an issue, but you know, I gotta be honest, for tournaments like this, I'm not gonna do any regearing on champions. I don't feel like it's worth it to tear builds apart, and especially with champions I use in some farming teams that are speed times. So kind of just left the gear how it is. You can see obviously they're still going to get through this. It was the longer time, but I just wanted to throw this run in here just to kind of showcase Yeoman a little bit, having a little bit of fun. Like I said, that's kind of the point of these tournaments. For me, at the stage of my account that I'm at, I just want to enjoy the game and do fun things like this. So this was kind of cool to go ahead and put him in there. So there you go. That was the worst team we ran the longest time, 5 minutes. And now I'm going to go to the team that I am going to use to farm this tournament. I didn't really want to show this one off too much because there is a Void Legendary in it in Raglan, and we also do have Septimus, who I know some people are not yet fortunate enough to have pulled. I would like to pull another one. I see a lot of teams doing this with double Septimus. He's a lot of fun, just a really fun champion to build and just nuke some bosses with. Now, I will say this, on the Fire Knight, he does have a little bit of a weakness because he is as dumb as a box of rocks, and as you'll see here, his very first attack, he is going to use Holy Sword right into the shield. So we get no benefit from that whatsoever, and then he's going to have to wait for it to come back on cooldown to get another big hit on the boss later. Obviously, you could tune the AI if you wanted to get that in depth with it, and you could make it so he holds that till his second turn when hopefully the shield's already down. If you've got a team that you could tune to have the shield down in one rotation, then have him go in there with that big smack. But this is the team we're going to be using in other testing. You know, this anywhere from 1:30 to 2 minutes basically was this time on this one here. So you see there we got a big shot. That's what we would rather have early on, but of course he uses it into the shield. That's really his only problem. But if you really want to farm this that seriously, you could set up the AI to fix that problem, I believe. But kind of the same thing here. Raglan's got the multi-hitter. She's got some turn meter boosting. Lysandra for the turn meter drain. Armiger and Septimus to do big damage. And Stag Knight for our speed down. That's just a couple teams I was just messing around with, trying to have a little bit of fun with this tournament. So let's go ahead and jump over to the champions. We'll take a look at their gear and everything else. Alright guys, so here we are in the champion section. We're going to take a look at the champions that we did use in this video, just so you guys can kind of get an idea of the gear and the stats and everything we have going on here. Now here we have a Raglan, who is kind of in her old build that I've had on her for a long time. You'll see she's still wearing a lot of 5-star gear. I haven't updated her in a while. She's mainly in a resistance build for use in Doom Tower and some other areas. You can see she's got over 550 resistance, but this is a build I haven't revisited in a long time. At some point I probably do need to go through and start doing some rebuilds on some of these older champions on my roster just to kind of get them in a little bit better spot. But you can see there she's right at that 3,000 plus defense area we like to get to, almost 60k HP. 206. We're not really too worried about her damage. She's mainly in for her 3-hitter on the shield there, and in general for content I mainly just use her as a reviver, someone there to resist, and then also with her you know, her healing and cleansing was really powerful, and then she's got that revive on basically the 2-turn cooldown, which is really fast to get that back. So she's just a great champion overall to help you support your team in any kind of content you're doing, really. So one of these days we'll get around to rebuilding her stats there. I can show you the masteries real quick just so you can get an idea there. And she is fully booked. She was one of my first Void champions that I ever got, so I actually invested in her pretty heavily when I got her early on. Next we have an older legendary as well. We have Lysandra here, who this is an old Doom Tower build. I used to use her on Scarab King, and again I haven't actually revisited this in a while, so another older champion that probably needs to get remodeled at some point. We've got her mainly in accuracy and perception gear. You can see she's at 442 accuracy total there. She's also somewhat fast at 250 speed, and that's just kind of how she's built. She's mainly just to be used as a turn meter drainer, booster for arena. It's mainly where I use her now, and also on the Dark Fae boss. She is fully booked, I believe. Yep, and here are her masteries in case you're curious. So pretty easy champion to run in Fire Knight as well, especially in 20 since she is that strong affinity. Here we have Septimus. Now he's slow as a rock. I have him tuned to basically go last in a lot of the teams I use him on for speed runs, where he's just there to basically hit really hard. His build is pretty bad. He's in Savage Gear just to get him in Savage Gear, but you can see that 82% crit rate is kind of bad. We need to get that up. That's why we've been farming a lot of Fire Knight and Dark Fae to try to get some better gear with crit rate rolls in the Savage set or the Lethal set. We did manage to get him to 7,000 attack without any empowerment, so that's pretty solid for him. We just need to work on the crit rate and get his crit damage up a little bit higher. That's just a gear problem, and that will hopefully come with time. Right now I've got him in Phantom Touch just because he's only got 1 star. If I get that to 3 or 4 stars, I'll probably change his ascension into something else there, so he's got a little bit better. But it's just nice to kind of get that little bit of bonus damage on him. Next up we have Stag Knight, who's a pretty staple Bannerlords champion. He's been in the game for quite a while. Good decreased defense champion, good speed down champion. And again, he's in an old build I made for Scarab King. You see there because he's got the destroy gear. I used to use him in Hard Doom Tower when I was first trying to go through it, and had to use him to beat the higher tier Scarab King boss. That's why you see his speed, what it is, pretty fast and pretty accurate on him there. 238 and 403 on the accuracy. That was to beat, again, the harder levels of Scarab King and Doom Tower. Now I solo it with Vergis, so I don't really need him there, but this build it's pretty good for just general use, other than the fact that I'd like to get him out of this Destroy set, which maybe I'll do at some point. But again, it's just he's an older champion on my account, and it's been a long time since I really had to worry about rebuilding him. Here we have Arminger. I use him mainly in my Dragon 25 farming team. So he's not really geared well for Fire Knight right now. I just have him in this poison set to do a little bit of extra damage on Dragon 25. And you can see his other stats. His crit rate is down a little bit, mainly because of that affinity difference. And then we've got 217 crit damage, defense at 3,600. It's not a great build. I made a video on my Dragon 25 team where I said this is basically the worst Arminger you've ever seen. But he works in Dragon 25 on my farming team there, so that's really all he's built for. I just threw him into Fire Knight because he's a pretty good champion to use there on Fireknight 20 if you do have him, kind of regardless of where your account is. And kind of continuing with the theme of older champions that we haven't really revisited in a while, we have Syl the Drakes here. This is basically the gear she's been in, I think, since I got her almost. I've updated a couple of the pieces when I've got better drops, but I've always run her in Relentless, always had good luck with it. I know some people like to run her in Stun, which is also a good setup, but just 2 pieces of speed, and we've got 4 pieces of Relentless gear on her. I think her accessories are the only thing I've really tried to fix over time. But her build's not too bad, 232 speed, 340 accuracy. Decent numbers, 3,700 defense, 53,000 HP. I use her just in like normal, the hard Doom Tower waves, like the normal waves there. That's where I mainly use her, especially on some of those waves with multiple Rotos. It's nice to have that stun sometimes come out there, and just pretty general run-of-the-mill masteries for her. I do have her in War Master because I do use her in a lot of boss fights as well, so it's nice to have a little bit of extra damage there. Then we have Apothecary, pretty common rare champion. A lot of people like. I personally feel like he's one of the more overrated champions in the game. A lot of people kind of foam at the mouth over this guy. I think there's other options like Diabolist you can get early in the game that are just as good as him, but he's still a solid champion overall. We have him built out in probably the best poison gear I had in my account for when I was just doing some fun stuff on Dragon. But again, we haven't touched this build in a while. He's just in whatever gear. But you can see here we've got 243 speed, 386 resistance. I want to have him crit capped actually for his healing. That kind of helps a little bit there. But nothing special about this Apothecary. I believe I do have him booked. I haven't even done his blessing yet. That's how lazy I am with him. He's usually actually in my vault. I don't think I even use him in Faction Wars anymore. I just pulled him out for this content here, which was kind of fun. So there's Apothecary, and now we have Yeoman. And as usual, my disclaimer of, I don't suggest to anybody that they go out and build a 6-star common champion of anything. I don't care who it is or what they're good at, especially if you're a new player or a mid-game player. Don't waste your resources building common or uncommon champions. You're much better off investing in good rares and good epic champions at that point. But he's kind of fun because he's got 1 skill, and it's an A1 that hits 3 times and has some turn meter decrease on it. Now, obviously, he's not going to do that well in Fireknight 20 because of that weak affinity on that turn meter hit, but he's just kind of a fun champion to use. And at the stage of the game I'm at almost 18 million player power. I'm in game. I've done everything in the game. I just kind of like to have fun now. So I go and I do stupid stuff like this, and I build 60 common champions because it's fun. One of the cool things about these special tournaments is you can do things like this and just use random characters that you normally wouldn't use. So I went ahead and put him together. We've got just perception and some accuracy gear. I kind of threw him in whatever I had. I did not want to waste good gear on him, but we at least got him to a decent speed rate and some okay accuracy for running like a 20 dungeon. And you see, he did okay. You know, it was a longer run. It was a very long run, but he did all right. Not too bad, but it was just kind of fun, like I said. And I'm pretty sure he's booked out because you can just use his extra copies to book. And I was obviously never did his masteries all the way down. Wouldn't be wasting time on that. But maybe since we have such a fast Minotaur team, maybe we'll go back in someday and finish those. And finally, we have a really solid Void champion. A lot of people have probably forgotten about, but that's Lightsworn, and he was pretty good when he got into the game. Always a very good Fireknight champion because of his 3-hitter, A1, and also because of his turn meter. I got him in retaliation gear, and I don't know why. I think maybe, honestly, I don't know why I have him in retaliation gear. But again, another champion that I haven't used in a long time, and probably just in his old gear set. There must have been a reason for that, but you can see we haven't even rolled up his banner. Just have him in some general gear here. So we've got 194 speed, 4,300 defense. He is a defense-based champion, so we wanted to get that up a little bit higher. 252 accuracy, which is fine for level 20 dungeons. And again, he's there mainly for this A1 to hit that shield 3 times. And then he's also got the decreased attack. Decreased speed is good for Fireknight as well. And then he's got this increased defense and revive on death on all allies, which can be really handy for helping you progress. And of course, you got the turn meter on the A1. So I believe his masteries are done. I think I had to build him for Faction Wars. I think maybe that's why we have him in retaliation gear. But other than that, I don't know. I'll have to figure that one out at some point. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it gave you some ideas on what you can try if you're just kind of struggling with this tournament, or you just want to do it just to get the rewards on the side. I'm going to be using the higher tier team that I was, the faster team with Septimus probably, because I'm still farming Savage gear, so it makes sense for me to do this tournament. For some of you others, you may want to skip it. It might not be worth wasting the energy. But I'm in the farm Fireknight stage as my job right now on my account pretty much. And especially with this Doom Tower rotation, having Dark Fae up to be able to farm lethal gear. That's kind of what I'm focusing on now, so I can start moving some better gear onto my big nukers. And work on these speed runs, because that's really the only thing I'm really enjoying right now with the game that I'm trying to work on, are getting my faction war teams faster, getting my dungeon 20 times down to kind of compete on the leaderboards. In the raid Discord that we have for that, the records Discord. I'll actually I'll leave a link to that in the comments down below if you guys want to go check that out. There's our good friend of the channel, Sam Solstice. She runs a records Discord for Raid Shadow Legends. It's got basically everybody's records from every area of the game: Clan Boss, Hydra, all the dungeon 20s, all the 25s. We all post our times there. Everybody tries to compete and kind of helps each other out to build better and faster teams. There's some actually really crazy, insane in-game players on there with multiple Acrisias who can do some absolutely insane dungeon speed times. But it's just kind of a cool place to hang out. And even if your time isn't, like in the top 5 or top 10, you can still post it, and it kind of gives you something to work on and shoot for getting better at the game. So it's kind of a cool place. Like I said, I'll leave a link to that if you guys want to check that out. Feel free to drop by and post some of your times there for whatever it is that you have some good speed times for. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you again next time.